Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargav, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. In this episode, we talk about the case that has dominated news headlines for the past few days. The case of the 19-year-old girl from the district of Hathras in Uttar Pradesh, who was battered and allegedly gang raped by four upper caste men, leading to her death. We'll take a look at the case from the beginning, discuss how the UP police allegedly cremated the victim's body by force, and then talk to Dalit rights lawyer Kiruba Munuswamy about the problems that the people from the Dalit community face while dealing with the police and the judiciary. Now, the village where the incident happened is a small one. It inhabits around 600 families, most of them upper caste. The district officials say that nearly half of them are Thakurs, while around 100 more are Brahmins. Only about 15 odd families belong to the Dalit community. And among this Dalit community has been a family of 7: father, mother, and 5 siblings. And the 19-year-old girl at the center of this case belonged to this family. Jignasa Sinha, who's been reporting on this story for the Indian Express since the beginning, tells us more.
The family, they're farm laborers. They live in this 3-bedroom house in a village in Hathras. And, the girl is the youngest amongst the 5 children. And the family they have a very simple life. The girl, her neighbors, they describe her as this very quiet and shy teenager who used to stay at home.
The reason she mostly stayed at home, Jignasa says, is because she was scared of the upper caste men who lived around her, who used to tease her and her family and would call them by casteist slurs. It wasn't a safe place for her. Like, the reason her and her sisters didn't go to school was because her mother said that the school was far away and she felt unsafe. Jignasa says that the girl was fond of making mehendi and drawing rangolis, loved buying bangles and hair accessories from the local market, though she had stopped doing that in the days leading up to the incident. The villagers mostly saw her going to the farm to collect fodder for their animals with her mother. And that's what she and her mother and the eldest brother were doing on the morning of 14th September.
While collecting fodder, the brother went back home. That's what the mother says. The mother is sitting hardly 100 meters from her daughter, and that's when the 4 accused men, they uh, they drag her by her chunni. Okay, so they strangle her, and she screams, for help. But her mother, she told us, her mother told us that she is hard of hearing, so she could not hear her daughter. So while all this is happening, her daughter is being brutally assaulted and raped. The mother could not hear her daughter. She was working, she was collecting fodder. After some time, the mother noticed her daughter's not there. So she kept looking, she called the brother.
Soon, they find her lying in a pool of blood in the field, the blood oozing out of her mouth, neck, and eyes. Her neck, in particular, was severely injured.
And she just kept saying the name of the accused, that, Sandeep did this, Sandeep did this. The family then rush her to the police station, who tell them that please take her to the hospital. They then go to the district hospital. The hospital authorities say that the girl is severely injured and we cannot treat her. Please shift her to some other hospital. So they take her to AMU, and that's where the treatment begins.
The AMU hospital Jignasa talks about here is the one affiliated to the Aligarh Muslim University in Aligarh. In the hospital, Jignasa says that the girl was initially doing well and even gave her statement to the police on September 21st and 22nd, almost a week after the initial incident. This is the time that she names the other 3 accused apart from Sandeep. One of them, Ravi, is Sandeep's uncle, and another is Sandeep's friend named Lavkush.
The police then register an FIR against the 4 accused under sections of gang rape and SC/ST Act. Before this, an initial FIR was filed against one accused, that is Sandeep. That was on the basis of the complaint that the brother gave. After that, Sandeep was arrested. But when the girl gave the statement, the police arrested all 4 accused in the next 2 to 3 days.
The girl had a tough time in the hospital. Her neck and spine was severely injured and she wasn't able to breathe. And the doctors told Jignasa that she had paralysis in all 4 limbs. But even then, she wasn't shifted to Delhi, where she could have been provided with better health facilities. Jignasa says that the family pleaded with the doctors, and the district authorities did assure them that she would be shifted to the AIIMS hospital in Delhi, which is considered one of the best hospitals in the country.
But that didn't happen. And, the authorities kept on delaying the thing till the girl's condition deteriorated. And after September 23rd, the girl was shifted to Safdarjung.
Safdarjung Hospital is also in New Delhi and is closely situated to AIIMS.
At Safdarjung, I think within 12 hours, the girl was declared dead because Safdarjung doctors say that she suffered heart attack, and because of her injuries on her neck and spinal cord, she died.
The four accused in the case, whose actions allegedly led to the girl's death, Jignasa says that there isn't a lot known about them, but the villagers consider them goons, upper caste men who are known to harass the Dalit community in the area, particularly the main accused, Sandeep.
The brothers, they say that these men have been harassing their family for years. And just like these people, even Sandeep's family, they are farmers, but yeah, they are Thakurs, so they own, 2 to 3 farms. And Sandeep, like a lot of locals say that he does not have a job. And his uncle Ravi, he works at his farm. And the other two accused, Love Kush and Ram Kumar, they're also the same. They're all farmers.
Sandeep's family, though, has had a history with the family of the victim. Like in 2012, Jignasa says the grandfather of the victim and the grandfather of Sandeep had a fight over a petty issue which led to an assault. Sandeep's grandfather had been booked under the STSC Act and served 3 months in prison.
And in 2015, now that we know, the SP of Hathras, Vikrant Veer, he told us that there was a complaint filed by the victim's family against the accused, Sandeep and Ravi. It was an assault case. But due to victim hostility, the case, no charge sheet was filed and the matter didn't go to the court. So that was it. But yeah, there is this history where there have been fights between the families.
Now we come back to the day when the victim had passed away in Delhi, 2 weeks after the original incident. This is the time that the case became really controversial and caught the national limelight.
It was around 9:30. I mean, the doctors had already conducted the post-mortem and the papers had been signed. And around 9:30, they sent the body. The body was released in a police van, in the ambulance. They left for Hathras.
It had been around 9:30 p.m. The doctors had already conducted the postmortem and the body was released and left for Hathras in an ambulance, which was accompanied by a UP police constable. The family, though, was not informed about this. The body of the victim in the ambulance was only accompanied by a UP police constable and the driver. The family, though, was not informed about this.
The family were protesting. After some time, they came to know, oh, their daughter is not at the mortuary now. So the DM, Hathras, they escorted the family members to the village, but they were not other government vehicle. Meanwhile, in Hathras, the policemen, they were already collecting logs and, the Shamshan Ghat, the cremation ground, the lights had been switched on and other things were being arranged for a late night funeral. They were already planning this while the ambulance had left for Hathras.
While the police are getting ready for a cremation, the family still has no idea what they're planning to do. The rest of the girl's family, the ones who didn't go to Delhi, are just in Hathras at their home waiting for the body to come back.
And after around 12 p.m. or 1 a.m., the ambulance reached the village. And then there was this heavy barricading by the police on the main road. And the ambulance was just stopped at that barricade. And the ambulance was just 100 meters away from the woman's house. The locals saw the ambulance. They informed the family members rushed there. And it was a very scary situation for them because they were like, okay, why didn't you inform us that the ambulance is here? And the authorities are like, it's a law and order situation and we just want you to cremate the body right now. And they're like, at least let the father and brother reach here and then you can do that. But the authorities started fighting with them. Then obviously, the police came, additional SP Prakash Kumar and other policemen came. And there was a lot of ruckus because villagers were protesting. the sister-in-law and other family members of the deceased, they just lay in front of the ambulance that we will not let you go. So this continued till 3:30 a.m. because things got very aggressive. Police personnel were pushing the women. They were kicking some of the relatives who were trying to intervene, and the family got scared after some time. They were like they went back home and they locked themselves. Meanwhile, the police, I think they saw this as an opportunity. They left for the Shamshan Ghat, which is like 100 meters away, and they already had the body. The logs were set up, everything. I think they spoke to 2 to 3 relatives, like distant relatives, and they just told them to come and witness the cremation. So these 3 relatives, they were there. None of the family members, like close family members, father, mother, sisters, or brothers, none of them were informed, and the cremation started. Meanwhile, while the police is saying no, we informed them and this did not happen, the family is saying no, we were not told, we were inside our house. District Magistrate of Hathras, Mr. Lakshar, he said that no, the funeral was carried out by family members, senior officials were there, and all these allegations are false. But the family said this is not the truth. We were inside the house, and even the relatives who went there, they were forced to attend the cremation. They did not go on their own will ki, oh, we'll attend the funeral. It was the police and the officials just forced them that, we are doing this, you please be here.
Around 3:30 a.m., the cremation was finished. That was also around the time that the family came out to find that everything was over. The police had given no explanation why this was done. Only later, they told them that the matter will be investigated. The incident has led the opposition to hit out against the ruling party and has now sparked protests across the country. Though yesterday Section 144 was imposed in Hathras, and the district magistrate of Hathras said that they will not allow the media to enter the village or meet the family.
And he also said that the SIT team has come, so they are interrogating and questioning, and so we cannot let anybody inside. So the entire village is now barricaded. It's heavily barricaded. The media cannot go. Even I think none of the people, like not even party workers, nobody can go.
Congress leaders Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi Vadra were also on their way to meet the family, but were stopped and detained by the state police.
Meanwhile, the SIT team went there, DM went there and told the family, they asked them about the incident, and the DM can be seen in a video saying that, the media will soon go. What will you do then? It's best if you change your statement. I spoke to the family members today and they told me the same thing. The DM is, forcing us to say things, but the DM is again saying that all these allegations are false, and he did not say anything like that.
Day before yesterday, Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath did a video conference with the father of the victim for 5 minutes. In this meeting, he assured the father of swift justice, strict punishment for the accused, and to examine the role of the UP police in the hasty cremation. He said that if they had done anything wrong, they would take action. But yesterday, another major development happened. It came from the Uttar Pradesh ADG Law and Order Prashant Kumar. Kumar claimed that the victim had not been raped, and says that apparently the forensic report says so. He said people in the media are trying to distort facts. The problem is that the body, which was hastily cremated, can no longer be subjected to any further tests. Jignasa has also written extensively about the village itself, where caste discrimination is rampant.
I mean, you can imagine in a society where all these upper caste people, they treat Dalits as untouchables. It is very difficult for the Valmiki Samaj to live in such society. I mean, brothers, the family, they allege that their sisters and their friends, they're often teased by the men, but they can't complain to the police. They can't complain to the administration because even those people are Thakurs. And if we talk about, other locals, like I spoke to a few families and they said, no, this is not true. We don't hurt them or we have never teased them. Yeah, we just don't talk to them. So even they agree that, they don't talk to the Dalits. They don't care about them. And that's what I mean. Dalits have been saying that they don't care if we get raped or we die. They won't even come to our house.
And that's what happened. After the death of the girl, not a single neighbor came to visit the family.
And all these neighbors, they're all upper caste people. None of them came to meet the family, to console them, nothing. And, this shows that how, things are very different there.
Locals told Jignasa of incidents like how when they go to buy something from a local store, the shopkeeper tells them to stand at a distance and chucks things at them. A 25-year-old woman told her how on her wedding day, her palanquin wasn't allowed to take the main road. A woman told her even in death, they face discrimination. And even though the case is getting national attention, the Dalit families in the village have little hope that things will change. Some even fear that there might be repercussions.
Also, they think that the upper caste people, they have the power to control the investigation, to control the police, everything. So people are scared in the village. They don't know what to say. A lot of them are not coming out of their houses. They stay in their houses. They don't want to talk about the case. They don't want to talk about the girl or the accused. So people are scared because the investigation, the incident, it's so brutal. The girl was severely injured. Half of the villagers are scared that, how can this happen to a girl? Half of them, they just don't believe this, that, this happened. No, no, the family is lying. They're trying to, get media attention. So, yeah, it's like people, there are different opinions, but yeah, a lot of them are scared.
Despite it being the case of upper caste men allegedly assaulting and raping a Dalit girl, many, while covering the story, have refrained from highlighting it as a caste-based crime and have focused on the fact that it is simply a crime against a woman. In this next segment, we talk to Supreme Court advocate and Dalit rights activist Kiruba Munuswamy about why this is a problem and the structural issues that people in the Dalit community face when dealing with the police and the judiciary.
So I think any violence should be addressed from where it is committed and to whom it is committed. So only if we are able to identify the vulnerabilities, we could actually resolve it and we could protect women or any other person for that matter from any violence committed against them.
And in this case, since the violence has been committed against a Dalit woman, she says that unless we address that, we cannot begin to solve the issue at hand.
She was not simply assaulted or sexually violated because she was a woman, but she was also violated because she was a Dalit woman who was brutalized for teaching a lesson to the family or to the entire Dalit community to show them their place. So this comes from a social caste and gender hierarchy, which is embedded in the Indian culture, Indian misogynic culture, which actually encourages men to think that women are their property. And when it comes to Dalit community, entire Dalits are exploited for centuries and they are being treated as their properties.
Moreover, in this case, she points to the history of caste-based discrimination that existed between the two families, the ones we discussed earlier.
So when there was a caste-based kind of threatening already existing, if the police had taken enough action in the earlier case, it would not have led to this brutal incident. So I think this is something which is very specific to caste, which is very specific to caste supremacy, and which is very specific to the hegemony that has exercised the sexual violence as a tool in order to reinforce the caste hierarchies in the Uttar Pradesh. And Uttar Pradesh is traditionally a place which has exercised caste hegemony and Dalit oppression. So we should not isolate it from history.
As per the latest National Crime Record Bureau's report, which was released earlier this week, crime against scheduled castes went up 7.3% from 2018 to 2019. And crime against women also increased 7.3% in the same period. And in terms of absolute numbers, Uttar Pradesh reported the highest number of cases in both these categories. Kiruba says that if we were to look deeply into patriarchy that enables men to commit such crimes, we would find that it comes from caste supremacy and the culture that celebrates male dominance in society.
So this caste layer and this gender layer together, which already have entitled or which have already enabled upper caste Thakur men to exercise force or exercise violence against Dalit women, have led to more cruel and gruesome incidents in various cases as well. So I think unless and until we address the patriarchy that has come from Brahmanism and casteism, and unless we recognize the fact that caste is a primary social issue, I don't think we are going to ever solve sexual violence against women or even provide protection to women from any community, not only Dalits.
And talking about the police allegedly cremating the body without the consent of the family, she says that this is not an isolated incident. Similar thing had happened in the case of Rohit Vemula as well, a Dalit student whose suicide had caused outrage across the country. In that case too, she says Vemula's body had been cremated without the consent of the mother.
And I have been on ground for so many cases where the Dalit bodies are not treated with dignity even after death. So this is very common. And I think this commonness and this abuse of law and this arbitrariness comes from the authority of caste and from the impunity that's been granted by the government, which allows the police to derelict from their duty. So even in the case of Nirbhaya, the entire nation outraged. Even it became an international issue with a girl being brutalized in the capital city of the country, the capital of the country. But still, police didn't abduct her body. The police didn't deny her last wish to be at the home. The police did allow the family, and the government did allow the family to pay last respects. And they also allowed the funeral and other things to have performed as per the customs of the family and the caste. So why this last respect was not allowed to be paid for this Hathras victim comes from the fact that the police have the impunity from the government, from the institution, and they are also negliging from their duty to protect the Thakur upper caste perpetrators.
One major issue that gets highlighted over and over in such cases are the problems that people from the Dalit community face in dealing with the police and the judicial system. As someone who has primarily worked on caste atrocity cases, she has seen this firsthand.
Firstly, the police officials don't take a complaint and they don't register a case straight away. But the law says if there is a complaint on crime or an offense, FIR has to be registered straight away. And the special law of SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act says the special provision have to be invoked when there is an offense committed against the members of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. So this special provision is also not invoked. Secondly, and thirdly, even if a FIR is registered, the accused persons are not arrested immediately, and they give enough time for the perpetrators to get away from getting arrested, or most of the time they also move out of the city. They make all the arrangements to threaten the family, to make them compromise the complaint, or there are occasions where police have filed counter complaints against the victims so that they withdraw the complaint or compromise in the matters.
And even when a case is registered, there are other things that are to be followed which often aren't. Like these cases are to be investigated by an officer who is not below the rank of a DSP. And when a caste offense is registered under the ST/SC Prevention of Atrocities Act, the caste certificate of the victim needs to be collected and submitted before the magistrate. But both these protocols are often not followed.
So these all lead to either non-registration of cases, or if registered, it leads to a low conviction or leads to acquittal on the grounds of technicalities. So these technical grounds on which these cases are dismissed come from the negligent part of the police officials. And let us come to the part of defense in the courtrooms. The special public prosecutors who are appointed by the government, who has to have 7 years experience in the bar, most of the time are from dominant caste, are from the caste as same as the perpetrators. So they don't commit themselves in getting justice to the victims. And there is a special provision which allows the victims to appoint their own public prosecutors. And the fact is, there are not many trained lawyers who could be appointed as special public prosecutors.
There are also problems when it comes to bail. She explains that the ST/SC Prevention of Atrocities Act cites that an offense committed against a member of SC/ST is non-bailable. But when a lower court denies bail, the perpetrator appeals to the High Court, and the High Court then gives direction to the lower court to reconsider the bail application. And the lower court, she says, can dismiss the bail application again.
But most of the time, they don't do it because they might be directly subordinate to the High Court judges. And when there is a promotion or when there is any internal thing, they are subordinate and they have to obey the orders, or they might experience repercussions, or it might backfire in some other ways. So if a direction or a reconsideration order is coming from the High Court, they tend to oblige. So what happens is, in a non-bailable offense, bail is granted. In one rape case of an engineering student, which I myself argued in the High Court, the High Court of Madras denied bail to this accused person, and he was also an engineering student from an upper caste. The first bail application was in the lower court, dismissed. He comes before the High Court. I pleaded, I objected, and the bail application was dismissed. And then he files third bail application in the lower court, and he gets a bail, and he easily left the country. And now he married somebody else, and he leads a peaceful life. And this poor engineering Dalit student, she was stigmatized, she was insulted, and this haunting incident has ruined her, destroyed her, and now she is nowhere. And how long do you think the family will support her case? And it is also a matter of livelihood. It is also a matter of, the family's capacity or the family's emotional resources to support their daughter who has been sexually violated by an upper caste engineering student.
Kiruba also says that in many such cases, the victims aren't trusted, the credibility of the witness is questioned, and the court often exercises its discretion in deciding the likelihood of the guilt of the upper caste perpetrator, like in the case of Bhavri Devi, who was gang raped in 1992 by upper caste men. In the case, the court had ruled that the accused were not guilty, stating that, among other things, that Bhavri's husband couldn't have passively watched his wife being gang raped. She also gives the example of the Mathura rape case of 1972.
And in Madhura's case, she was gang raped in the police station, and it was a custodial rape. And still the Supreme Court says, since she is from a tribal background, she is habitual to sexual intercourses, and she could have instigated the police officials to commit such an offense. So this sort of impunities are reality. So in the Udumalai Shankar honor killing case in Tamil Nadu, the incident happened on a broad daylight. It was captured on a CCTV camera, and it was produced before the court. But still, the court set free all the main accused persons, and only the hired murderers were punished. I don't understand why would the hired murderers specifically murder Udumalai Shankar, who just got married to an upper caste woman. So what is the motive? The court easily dismissed the caste angle, and there was no caste angle in the 500 pages judgment. And the court released all the accused persons. And what message did this judgment send? This judgment says you can hire murderers, you can kill your own daughter, and the Dalit person can be murdered on a broad daylight. It could have been captured on a CCTV camera, but don't worry, we are here to set you free.
These problems are structural and require the support of state governments. But she says that they aren't interested in that. She also says that we should be discussing these issues more often, and not only when a Dalit woman has been brutalized and died.
We all need to acknowledge that caste is something which is primary in the Indian society, and that is the reason why the Constitution has had a provision to abolish untouchability, and it had provided for making any other special laws in order to achieve the right to equality that has been guaranteed under the Indian Constitution.
But she says that the Indian society cunningly avoids caste because everyone but the marginalized benefit from it.
So I think annihilation of caste is the only solution, because every oppression, intersectional oppression, women oppression, gender oppression, even labor exploitation, everything is coming from the caste supremacy. And unless and until we annihilate caste, we are not going to achieve an equal society. People who are writing about Black Lives Matters, they are not ready to engage in active conversations about caste. They think, no, please don't talk about caste. This is an violence against women. But what is the degree of your vulnerability and what is the degree of the vulnerability of this poor Dalit girl? So I think addressing caste and actively participating in the anti-caste conversations and recognizing the structural problems or the systemic issues and also looking deeply at the caste, social and gender hierarchies that's been constructing the entire Indian society is very much important in addressing these issues.
You were listening to Three Things by The Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargav, and as always was edited and mixed by our producer Joshua Thomas. Before we go, here's another reminder to check out Indian Express's Explain section. You can log on to indianexpress.com/explain and find in-depth analysis by the right experts. It has everything you need to know to understand the news better and see the bigger picture. If you like this show, then you can subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcast@indianexpress.com.